Journeys in 1 Kings. The book opens with King David in his final days. If it was the mission of 2 Samuel to show that David was the legitimate king, the task for 1 Kings, or at least the first half of this book, is to show that Solomon, David's son with Bathsheba, is the legitimate heir. Yet it is David's son Adonijah whom we see proclaiming himself king. He is supported by David's commander Joab and the priest Abiathar. Then, prompted by Bathsheba and by the prophet Nathan, David declares Solomon the true king. Benaiah will be his military leader, and Zadok the high priest. Abiathar and Joab are eventually put to death, but the text makes clear not for the attempted coup, but for other sins. Abiathar, we remember, supported David when Absalom rebelled against him. He is banished. This was done, as we read from 2:27, that Solomon might fulfill the word of the Lord, which he spake concerning the house of Eli in Shiloh. Well, what does that mean? We look back to 1 Samuel chapter 2, or even further back to the book of Exodus, the Levitical priesthood. Aaron, Moses' brother, was the first high priest, and Aaron had 4 sons. The first 2 died childless. They offered strange fire before the Lord. In the book of Numbers, we read about the zeal of Phinehas. The book of Joshua shows him as the first high priest in Shiloh. Later, in the book of 1 Samuel, Eli, the descendant of Ithamar, is serving as high priest. Abiathar is his great-great-grandson. But now Solomon transfers the office of high priest to the older son from Ithamar back to the clan or the line of Eleazar. Is this a new priestly line for the coming temple? Returning to geography, this is where Adonijah was crowned, this is where Solomon was crowned, where Abiathar was exiled to, and here, on a mountaintop, Solomon prays for wisdom, which he uses to rule well, and the kingdom grows. 1 Kings 4:24, Solomon's dominion extended over all the kingdoms west of the Euphrates River, from Tipshah to Gaza, and there was peace on all his borders. Then skipping ahead to chapter 9, we'll read verse 26, Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion-Geber, and that makes sense. In the ancient, like in the modern world, empires mean trade. Solomon trades with Egypt and Asia Minor. From 2 Chronicles chapter 9, we read about faraway trade with Sheba and Tarshish. Surrounded by wealth and power, Solomon remembers his father's dream of building a house for the Lord. With wood from Tyre and skilled workmen, Solomon completes the temple and a palace for himself, and then the temple is dedicated. 2 Chronicles 5 tells us about how a cloud, the Lord's glory, filled the house of God. The building continues. Towns of Hazor, Megiddo, Gezer, Beth-horon, Baalath, and Tamar. Chapter 9, verse 20. And all the people that were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, whom the children of Israel were not able utterly to destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bondservice unto this day. And all of this impresses the Queen of Sheba, but, chapter 11, verse 1, King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go in unto them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. And Solomon clave unto these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. So Solomon builds a temple to Moloch, and then worships other devils, including Astarte, Chemosh, and Milcom. And the Lord raises up enemies from the south, from the north, and even inside the kingdom. Jeroboam flees into Egypt, and there he awaits Solomon's death. In his wisdom, Solomon knew this day was coming. And then Rehoboam takes the throne and visits the rebels. All that building under his father, that meant heavy taxes. So now the question, will the burden be lightened? Rehoboam answers no. But then he has to flee back to Jerusalem, running for his life, as Jeroboam returns from Egypt and the divided kingdom. Judah in the south, Israel, the 10 northern tribes in the north, against the tribes of Benjamin and Judah. Don't forget how the tribe of Dan moved north in the book of Judges, and don't forget Simeon. There's also the priestly tribe of Levi, so maybe 10 verses 2 is a bit oversimplified. Anyway, Jeroboam fortifies these cities and sets up idols, golden calves in these 2 cities, Bethel in the south, Dan in the north, idols that anger God. Jeroboam's son is sick, and the prophet in Shiloh says he will die. Egypt invades. Division at home means weakness abroad. New kings, the same civil war. Israel pushes south to relieve the pressure. Judah buys allies in the north, and hostilities continue through multiple kingships. Omri leaves off battling the Philistines in order to seize power, and that oftentimes means wiping out the predecessors, just as Zimri and other northern kings had done before. David's line still holds the throne in Judah, and always will. Omri moves the capital to Samaria, where his son and his wife Jezebel will reign. We notice how the book of Kings focuses more on events in the north. You have to turn to 2 Chronicles chapter 14 to read about the Ethiopian invasion of Judah and its defeat. And then the focus turns from kings to prophets. Prophets like Elijah, who announces a drought, lives with a widow, raises her son, and then battles with the prophets of Baal before the drought ends with Elijah fleeing south all the way to Mount Sinai. He returns with a message for the king of Aram, a future king of Israel, and his own successor. Aram attacks again. Ahab is given victory, but then he seeks an alliance, while Jezebel steals a vineyard. And then Israel and Judah join together for a battle where Ahab is killed by an arrow shot at adventure, shot without even being aimed. And the book ends with these 2 kings bickering over a trade deal. There is a navy of ships leaving Ezion Geber again, going all the way perhaps to India and all the way to Spain, and idolatry is reigning, and foreign powers are growing even stronger, and Israel's experiment with political power continues.